Trauma. A lot of us always talk about trauma, traumatic events. I can confidently tell you that I've experienced that aspect of trauma in some areas of my life, and now I'm on the other side. I have become untwisted from my trauma, even though I still have the scars. But what exactly is trauma? And can this be categorized, or is trauma just one big bowl that everyone can say, I'm traumatized, I'm traumatized, I'm traumatized? Let's talk about what trauma is, but most importantly, I'll take you through how we can heal from traumatic events. Hi guys, I'm Toyin Okanuga. I'm your Hush to Raw girl. I am your self-realization mindset expert, specifically when it comes to adverse childhood experiences. So yes, today I just want to touch on what trauma is, but most importantly, tell you the steps that are vital for us to heal from our traumatic event. And when I say heal, it doesn't mean you will not remember them. It actually doesn't even mean that when you remember those traumatic events, you won't still cry. But it means that you can live a fulfilling life where you don't just survive, you thrive. So let's talk about trauma. So many times we say, oh gosh, I was traumatized. And, but were you really? There are three main types of traumas. I'm not going to go straight into them, but trauma, that word came from, it was a Greek word. It came from Greek. It's a Greek word, and it means wound, like wound. And it's also a word that has come from the Pro-Indo-European, so like the ancient type of Indo-European language that was not sort of like formalized, and that is tear. So that word tear, it's spelled T-E-R-E, and that means to be twisted, to be wounded, to be defeated. That's what trauma really means. And some psychologists even go further to say traumatic experiences are irrevocable. That means they cannot be turned back because you've been twisted. They damage irrevocably your psyche, the way you think. They fragment our consciousness and prevent the direct linguistic representation, so how we speak. So that is what trauma is. And I'll just say the three types of traumatic events that there, not events, but the three types of trauma that there are. So we have acute trauma. That is when there's one event that has taken place in your life and it's acute. So maybe an accident or the death of a loved one. It's sudden, it's one. And then we can then move to another one, which is chronic. So chronic is like a lot of traumatic events over a period of time. But then we have the complex trauma. So complex trauma is interpersonal. Well, it's to do with one person to another, specifically people that are meant to love you and who you love. They involve things that I went through, which was sexual abuse from a very close family member and other traumatic events that are close interpersonal. The chronic one, which could be termed as war and everything, and things that are really devastating, but with sustained effort and continuous interpersonal skills with people that are qualified and that love from people that you love, you can heal. I'm a living witness to say you can heal. Though I have my wounds and I was twisted, I had to get untwisted. So you can imagine from the definition that I said what trauma is, if it means that you are twisted, it irrevocably, it affects your psyche. It fragments your consciousness. So it renders you silent, is what I will say. You can imagine that you will not live full out, right? Because I never did. So what exactly are those things? So as I said, it could be an abuse. It could be war. Now we're going through very disturbing times right now. And children are there. I'm all about children because what happened to me was during my childhood. So it could be children experiencing things that they have never experienced before. And they don't have people who can love them and wrap them around their arms to say, you know what, and just give them that reassurance, even though they're not reassured themselves. But it's those sort of things because we need that human connection. So traumatic events are very severe experiences that damage our psyche, the way we think. We are rendered silent. Now, I can tell you that through my own healing, through my own various traumatic events, there were 3 main things I had to do to heal. And I kid you not, you have to do the 3, but I added 1 to it because this was another one I added to my own healing, which helped me. So let's go through those. You will not heal from your traumatic events. If there are things going around right now that are very traumatic, these are the 3 things that if you know someone that you can help them with. But most importantly, let them see a specialist. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist. I'm studying taking a lot of certificates in psychology. But my own personal experience and how I healed is what I'm just going to go through quickly. So very quickly, the 3 things that have to take place for you to heal is in my title. So healing trauma. You have to talk, and that is, for me, it's talking and telling your story of the events that happened that rendered you silent. You have to speak, bring that unconscious to the conscious level. Why? Because it was rendered silent. Remember I said twisted. You have to untwist it, and it is really traumatic. You have to untwist it by talking. You have to say what you was not spoken. For me, that's unspeakable things that happened to me rendered me silent. It rendered me voiceless. So the unescapable shock that happened to me through my being suddenly taken away from my foster parents, and then getting to know a dad that I loved so much, and then realizing that he was not my dad, and then after that being sexually abused from the age of 12 until I turned 15. So those were all traumatic events, and that's why I had complex trauma. So these are the things, when I was doing my research, I said go to this therapist and everything. I was rejected that. So I took everything into my hands. I said, Lord, I'm going to heal. So talking, and that was one big one, through writing my book. So that was a way of communicating what I never used to communicate. Talking, that's number 1. You have to, but you have to heal yourself first. You have to be ready. So talking, tears, crying. So then I would hold everything in, and I would pretend as if I'm so happy, and you would never know that I was not. You have to cry. And before I started writing my books, when I was reading all the literature, that I realized that, oh my gosh, I was traumatized. This was what was happening to me. I cried and cried and cried. So I was releasing all those toxins to heal. And then what's the third one? The third one is time. The third one is time, because you have to give yourself time to heal. And people will be rushing you to say, oh my gosh, it happened so long ago. Trauma is, as I said, twisted, renders you silent. It is so severe that it's irrevocable, people say. It damages you. So how do they expect that all of a sudden you're going to heal? No, you're going to take time. You're going to have self-compassion. You do not rush it. You'll go back in the old ways. You will come back. And it will take a long time to heal. And it's taken me so long to heal before I got to this stage now. So that's the talking, you cry, tears, and time. And the 4th one that I wrapped around everything was mindfulness. So being comfortable with who I am, sitting and do meditation. But with me, is now more of my spirituality. And that is a direct relationship with God. Not religion, because I am a Christian, but it's the direct relationship with God, because I could not understand why God allowed me to go through everything I went through. And church that I went to then was not letting me see the Jesus that also suffered. I needed that. For me, I needed that direct relationship. But for if you're not spiritual, and you know, I would say the 4 things are the 3 T's and the M, and how it's just talking, telling your story continuously. You don't even stop. Not that you just pour it out anytime, but when you're sharing and you go and help others, you're talking, you're sharing your story, it makes shame, it removes the shame, because shame cannot, the antidote to shame is talk. You know, the antidote to shame is bringing it to the light, because shame is in the dark, you bring it to the light. So it's talking, it's tearing up, and it's time. And then mindfulness. They're the things that will make you heal. Now, for your journey, as I said, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist. You need to see someone to help you heal. And the little things you can do step by step is looking after yourself. Self-care, self-compassion, self-love. Look after you first before your family. Then you can look after your family when you've looked after yourself first. That's the only way. So yes, looking after yourself, and then you can start delving deeper into getting to the people by telling the people if it's not dangerous to do so. I interviewed the people, the person that sexually abused me. I was bold because I was determined to heal. But you have to do those 3 things. So during these times that are so triggering right now, what I'll advise you to do, the things that you need to do, like exercise, eating well, being in action, by getting up, being physical in terms of walking, going out to nature, doing things that you love. Feel good. I dance. When I've cried, you'll think, what's wrong with this woman? Yes, I've just finished crying, and now I am dancing, I'm singing, I'm happy, because those endorphins will be released, those feel good hormones will be released, so that will make you, it will motivate you to go on in life. So guys, they're the 3 things that I thought I'd come to tell you need to do, and for us to understand the impact, the effect of trauma in our lives. And if you can just give someone a hug, the connection of human touch is, it's healing, it's medicine. Just hugging someone who's right now, if you can just reach out to someone and hug and hug and hug, it's healing. So yes, guys, if you want to heal, you can't do one of those. You've got to talk, you've got to tear up, you've got to give yourself time. And they are, my darlings, healing from trauma. Thank you, guys. And please subscribe. Let's have a dialogue. Let's talk. Remember, guys, your inner child, it has a voice. Don't suppress it, because that's trauma. You've got to come out. And what do? You roar. Thank you very much, guys. I love you. And look after yourselves.